Probably the worst opening day for a Mets fan in a long, long time. And, we started off 0-5 last year. I'm not panicking. I'm not even upset with the Mets. I'm not panicking after one loss. But for Juan Soto, he had a great game. I'm not going to lie. Juan Soto had a great game. He got the first hit of the Mets year with a 110 mile per hour single up the middle. Like I said, recording the first hit of the Mets season. A great way to start off his Mets career with that 110 mile per hour laser up the middle. He gets on base 3 times overall, works 2 walks, but then he comes up in the ninth inning with a chance to win the game. And at one point, the count was 3-0. And I'm thinking Josh Hader just wants to get away from Juan Soto and face Pete Alonso and give Pete Alonso a chance to win the game with the bases loaded and, kind of just gamble that Pete Alonso won't come up in that situation. And part of me was excited because what I was thinking is we're going to get Pete Alonso up with the bases loaded, and Pete Alonso is going to shut a lot of people up by coming up clutch and winning the game for us in a big way, whether it's, a base hit that drives in the tie and run, or hell, maybe even a grand slam, because Pete's never hit an opening day home run yet. Maybe he was due for that home run. But of course, slider down the middle, Soto takes 3-0, smart thing to do. Fouls off a tough slider. And then something very unlike Soto, chases on a bad pitch out of the zone. And immediately, ring, 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 ring is all I got. Juan Soto has no clue what he did for Mets fans. I feel terrible. Luckily, I work with 2 Mets fans. But unluckily, there's a lot of Mets fans out there that have to go into work tomorrow and face the Yankee fans. And I wish them the best, because I would call off. I would call out of work if I was a Met fan and had to deal with the Yankee fans that are just trolling and trolling and trolling. They don't care that Juan Soto got on base 3 times today. All they care about is the guy who had over a 980 OPS, led them to the World Series last year, left them to go to little brother, the New York Mets. All they care about is that and the fact that he struck out with an opportunity to give the Mets a chance to win the game. That's all they care about. They don't care about the 2 walks that he drew or the 110 mile per hour single off his bat. They don't care about that. They don't. But, at the end of the day, Soto did play well. Soto was not the reason the Mets lost this game. And let's dive into it. Then we'll hop into some Yankees talking a little bit. Welcome to the New York Double Play podcast, by the way. I got to get that off. I didn't say welcome. I just started ranting about Soto kind of screwing me over and just getting all those notifications from all my Yankee fan friends. But like I said before, just a second ago, Soto was not the reason we lost this game. So we're going to unfortunately have to take the heat as Mets fans. We have to suck it up and take one across the chin. And hopefully Soto comes out there tomorrow and goes 4 for 4 and hits for the cycle. And then we can have our weekend with the Yankee fans. That would be something. Probably not going to happen with our luck. But, Soto's not the reason we lost this game. We're 0-1, big whoop. We were 0-5 last year. The Mets started off the season 0-5 last year, dead out of water. And today they just got unlucky. Luis Acuna had an error, which should have been we should have got out of the inning. 1 run allowed for Clay Holmes. It should have been. Ended up being 3 runs allowed, 2 earned on the day. So Clay Holmes didn't have a great day. He did have 4 walks, which is kind of normal. 1 for Clay Holmes and for starting pitchers early on in the year. You look at Sandy Alcantara, he had 4 walks. Blake Snell right now, he has over 4 walks right now. A lot of starting pitchers don't have their command early on. It's just a thing with pitchers, mainly starters. As they progress on in the year, starting pitchers usually have better command of their pitches. I'm hoping Clay Holmes can be that type of starter where he gets better command, because even my Yankee fan friends know he has the stuff. Clay Holmes has elite stuff. He has a 6-sinker. He draws an insane amount of ground balls. He's added 3 pitches to his arsenal: a kick change. He's added a sweeper. He's adding a slider. He's got a curveball. He's got the 4-seam fastball. He's got the cutter. Clay Holmes has a ton of pitches to offer. and he's got elite stuff. But the question for him is, can he go deep into ball games? And the way he's going to have to go deep into ball games is by limiting the walks. And, he only allowed 3 hits today. I believe it was only 3 hits allowed today. Let me just take a look at the final score line. But for him to allow, I know only 2 earned runs, but still he had 3 runs allowed. He had 3 runs allowed. He got the loss today, and Clay Holmes, only 5 hits allowed. 5 hits, 3 runs scored. That's something you rarely see, and especially without letting up a home run. He didn't let up a home run. He only let up 5 hits, struck out 4 guys, but 4 walks. That's what killed him. The 4 walks, a couple leadoff walks, and almost every time there's a leadoff walk, they score. They score. It happened a lot with the Mets in the postseason last year. It happened with them every time. I want to know the percentage on that with the analytics. How many times does a run score when the inning starts off with a leadoff walk? I want to know that. So if anybody listening right now can find that out for me and comment it, I would love for you to do that. I'm going to try to get that for the next pod because I hate leadoff walks. So 4 walks, 4 costly walks for Clay Holmes. But other than that, he looked great. He looked great. Like I said, only 5 hits allowed. Didn't allow a home run like Carlos Rodon did, but Carlos Rodon shined today. He had 7 strikeouts. He dominated, which is huge for the Yankees. If they have a dominant Rodon, an actual $165 million pitcher, that'll be good for them. And we're going to talk about that coming up. But so Clay Holmes 4 walks. That's one reason we lost. Not Juan Soto. Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor went 0 for 4 today with 2 strikeouts. And I'm not going to say I'm worried about Francisco Lindor, but I'm worried about Francisco Lindor. The reason I'm worried about Francisco Lindor is because we were in year 4 with Lindor. Last year was undoubtedly a career year, not only with the Mets, but for his career. He had the best year of his entire career last year. But he started off the season slow, very slow. He did that in 2021. He did that in 2022. He did that in 2024 and 2023. So now, heading into year 5, actually, my mistake there, I'm worried about Lindor starting off the season slow because it's happened for 4 consecutive years. And for him to go out there and go 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, I know we faced a stud of a pitcher in Valdez. For the past, I think he's been pitching now for 7 years. He has been one of the most reliable pitchers, not only in the American League, but Valdez in the MLB. You look at his numbers last year, he was elite, pitched 176.1 innings, pitched to a 2.91 ERA. Year before, 3.46. Year before, in 2022, he pitched a 2.82. 2021, a 3.14. So the Mets faced one of the best pitchers in baseball over the past 4 years. So I'm not too shocked to see that they only put up 1 run on one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. But at the same time, when our guy who finished second in MVP voting last year, who carried us to the playoffs, starts off the season 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, and he's had 4 years prior where he started off the season slow, that worries me a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because we always say it too, that Lindor is every year. How is this guy not an NL All-Star? I'll tell you why Lindor is not an NL All-Star every year. It's because he starts off the season extremely slow. So when the All-Star game, when the All-Star voting comes out, his batting average is usually in the 230s range. Now, if he plays like he does in the second half for a full year, you can make a case that Lindor, if he played like he did after the All-Star break last year, after he just got into the leadoff spot in May, after he came into the leadoff spot in May, he put up MVP numbers. He might have actually won the MVP over Shohei Ohtani if he put up those numbers across 162 games, but he didn't. And that's what I'm worried that's going to happen again. And it'll be fine if it does, because we still have Juan Soto. We still have Pete Alonso, who looked much better. I know it's 1 game, but he did the same thing in spring training with his pitch selection. It has vastly improved so far. He showed it off in today's game. So luckily, we still have Soto. We still have Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos, who came up with an 0-2, turning an 0-2 count into a walk, which was clutch. We still have Brandon Nimmo, who got a base knock today. But Francisco Lindor, out of all those guys I just mentioned, he's the only guy that didn't get on base today. Only guy. He's the only guy that drove in a run. Don't get me wrong there. That was a clutch sac fly, giving the bat into Soto's hands with a chance to tie the game. Very clutch. But at the same time, He went 0 for 4 and didn't get on base and struck out twice. And like I said, he started off the season slow for 4 consecutive seasons. And I hope it's not 5. I really hope it's not 5. But Juan Soto goes 1 for 3, gets on base 3 times, 2 walks. That one strikeout, obviously, at the end is what everybody's talking about. Pete Alonso, though, he didn't strike out today. He went 1 for 2. Has hit a nice single down the line, a rope down the line the opposite way. And in 2022, that was Pete Alonso's style. Pete Alonso wasn't just, a pull hitter. Like in 2023, Pete Alonso was a dead pull hitter. He hit 46 home runs and he batted I think he hit 216. Hit 216 with 46 home runs. But in 2022, he hit 271 with 40 home runs, led the league in RBIs with 131 RBIs. And that was partially due to, attacking the shift. When they're playing on the left side, Pete Alonso is going to have to go the other way. But now since they banned the shift, it's almost like his mentality changed, his approach changed, where he's just trying to pull. So I kind of want him to get back to his old ways where he's spreading the ball all over the field. And now he can have a year like he did in 2023 this year, where he hits 46 home runs, drives in 118 RBIs, and hits 216, and that'll be fine. But if we get this Pete Alonso that was there today, if we get the Pete Alonso of 2022, the complexion of this lineup completely changes. And I know he's going to be an X factor in this lineup, regardless of what his batting average is. It really is the home runs. But if Pete Alonso is a 40 home run guy with a 271 batting average like he was in 2022, I mean, that's 3 MVP caliber players in Lindor, Soto, and Alonso right there. It's not just 3 all-stars or 2 MVP caliber players and an all-star. No, that's 3 MVP caliber players. So I'm hoping, with the way Alonso, showed his approach off today, laying off sliders out in the zone. His pitch selection was great today. That's really when Pete Alonso is on his game, when his pitch selection is there. And it was there today. It was there all spring training. So I'm hoping it's an early sign of a great season for Pete Alonso. I think it helps that he's hidden in between Mark Vientos and Brandon Nimmo, depending on the lefty-righty matchup, and right behind Juan Soto. I think that's huge for Pete Alonso. I mean, he was always hidden in the cleanup hole for the Mets in his first 6 years. He had guys like J.D. Davis, J.D. Martinez, Jeff McNeil, Daniel Vogelback, Darren Ruff. Like, he had some terrible 5 hitters behind him. So now he's got some consistency in this lineup. So I'm hoping he has a good year and his early signs of his approach stays this way all year. Because going 1 for 2, drawing 2 walks, Pete Alonso doesn't draw walks. Like, he usually doesn't draw walks. Like, you look at his walk numbers from last year, he only drew 66 walks. 2023, only 59. Even 2022, only 51. Drew 2 walks today. So, I mean, I know he's not going to draw 2 walks every game, but his average pace right now is he's going to draw 324 walks right now at this rate. But if he can just draw a walk a game, that's huge. Just 1 walk a game. Even 2 walks every 3 games. That would be huge for Pete Alonso's on-base percentage, his OPS, and the team. Because he has guys like Brandon Nimmo and Mark Vientos hidden behind him. Now let's talk about Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo, it's a little bit of... A lot of Mets fans are having different opinions on this. He came up with the bases loaded, 2 outs, down 3-0 in the 8th inning. Soto gets on base with a walk. Pete Alonso gets on base with a walk. Mark Vientos gets on base with a walk. So when you're down 3-0 and the pitcher just walked 3 consecutive batters and you're down 3-0 in the top of the 8th inning, wouldn't you just common sense wise feel like the batter should take a strike? Because I get the idea of, yes, it was a great pitch to hit. It was right down the middle. But he lines out to center field on the very first pitch of the at-bat. Mark Vientos hit before him. He was down 0-2. He worked a walk. So I don't want to hear that, if he gave up that pitch, that might have been, his only opportunity to get on base or do something. No, because Mark Vientos just worked out of an 0-2 count. So I don't want to hear that. And Brandon Nimmo is a guy who never swings at the first pitch. So I was kind of a little shocked to see him swing at that first pitch after 3 consecutive walks. Even though it was right down the middle, I get it. But like I said, Vientos was 0-2 right before him and worked a walk. So, I was kind of shocked to see Brandon Nimmo swing at that first pitch. I think that was a costly, I get it. He hit the ball hard. He squared it up, but he hit it right at the center fielder. I feel like, Nimmo, a guy who does work a lot of walks, a guy throughout his career who has gotten on base at a high clip. I would have been much more comfortable if Nimmo, ended up just working a walk, hitting something on a 2-strike count, maybe slapping the ball the other way or something like that. I was just a little shocked. Not the ultimate reason we lost the game. It was a multitude of reasons. Like I said, Lindor going 0 for 4, Nimmo in that situation. I mean, we had second and third in the first inning. We had runners in scoring position, and we couldn't capitalize. So there was numerous moments that we didn't capitalize. Luis Acuña's error, that was costly, even though we didn't score enough to even outdo that error. It was still a costly error. Like, we don't want him making errors. We're always talking about Luis Acuña's defense and how his defense is supposed to be what made, like, Luis Acuña. I'm going to go over the cons before the pros of the game for him, because he had a great at-bat, by the way. I think he was like an 11-pitch at-bat, and I think he was down 0-2 in the count as well, and he ended up working a walk. It was a great at-bat. But outside of that, like he didn't play too well. Like, he looked overmatched tonight outside of that one at-bat. So I was a little shocked. Maybe, he was bored tonight. Who knows? But, I'm hoping he can turn it around, because I don't think, like, Brett Beatty can underperform. And then when McNeil comes back, Beatty's still going to be on the team. If Acuña underperforms, he's not going to be on this team when McNeil comes back. He's going to get sent back down to AAA. So I think it's Acuña who needs to have a better start to the year than Beatty, actually, because Beatty's tore it up in spring training. Beatty already conquered AAA. Acuña's AAA numbers are dog water. His spring training numbers were terrible. I get he had a great 14-game stretch at the tail end of last year, but are we really going to oversell 14 games? Are we going to oversell 14 games? But he did his job tonight with that walk, but outside of that, making that error, he went 0 for 3 with a strikeout. So that was another reason we lost this game, was that costly error. Louis Torrens, I can't blame him. When Juan Soto was up, I'm not sure exactly what inning it was, but Soto's up. You got Torrens on second after he hits a double. And it looked like the ball almost hit Soto, but it didn't. And then Soto's just waving Louis Torrens to go to third base. And the ball goes right, like, literally, it bounces off the wall, goes right back to Yanir Diaz, and he just makes a bullet throw to third base. Torrens is out, ends the inning. That's another opportunity we could have scored. I feel like Soto, he would have came through. And I know that's me being biased, but I feel like Juan Soto would have came through with at least a single to score Louis Torrens there. I can't blame Louis Torrens, because why wouldn't you try to take third base on a pass ball? Especially him being a catcher. Normally that was just luck. It went right back into Diaz's hands, and he threw him out at third. It was luck. So bad luck our way there. But yeah, just ultimately a terrible, terrible opening day for the Mets. But I'm not panicking. We're 0-1. It's not a big deal. We have 161 games left. Now, before I talk about the Yankees, let's talk about Game 2. Tomorrow night, we got Tyler McGill on the mound. I want to talk about Tyler McGill because this is his last opportunity. It is now or never for McGill to show us that he can be an MLB pitcher. I feel like he has been a cat, and he's had 9 lives. He's going to get another home opener start, no matter if he lets up 10 runs tomorrow or not. He's going to get that home opener start for the third time in his career, which is insane. Because you look at his numbers throughout his career, and let's go over them, because this is why this is his last shot. In 2021, put up a 4.52 ERA. 2022, 5.13 ERA. 4.70 ERA in 23, 4.04 ERA last season. And we've seen McGill put up dominant starts, like Clay Holmes. But Clay Holmes limits damage. Tyler McGill doesn't really limit damage. But like Clay Holmes, he has elite stuff. Sometimes can touch 99. Usually sits between 95 and 98 with his fastball. He's got like 8 different pitches, dude. He's throwing like a sweeper, a slider, a cutter, a two-seam. He's got a changeup. Obviously, the 4-seam. He's got the sinker. He's got a lot of different pitches. And he throws hard. And with his extension, too, like he's a tall guy. He's 6'7, 230. When you're 6'7 and you're throwing 98 miles per hour, 97, 95 even, it makes it look like a 100-mile-per-hour pitch with his extension. So he has everything for a pitcher to succeed. But the inconsistencies have just haunted him so far. And now going into his 5th season, he needs a major turnaround. He doesn't need to pitch to a sub-3 ERA. He doesn't even need to pitch to a sub-3.5 ERA. Maybe like a sub-4, and that's perfect. He can stay in this rotation. He's got a real opportunity to stay in this rotation. Because even though the Mets only scored 1 run tonight, if Tyler McGill pitches to a sub-4 ERA, we will win more games than we lose. Because I have full confidence in this offense to score 5-6 runs in more games than they don't. So McGill has an opportunity to solidify a rotation spot all year long. And it starts tomorrow. It does start tomorrow. We've seen him get off hot before, like his rookie year in 2021, when he made that opening day start for the Mets. He came out the gates firing. He had a sub-1 ERA through his first month in the league. We were comparing him to Jacob deGrom. That's how good he pitched. And then he just fell off. He fell flat on his face ever since then. And even last year, he had some good starts, too. He had some dominant starts. He shut down the Dodgers. He shut down the Dodgers' A lineup last year with Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez. He shut down that lineup. We can't forget that he shut down that Dodgers lineup last year. But the inconsistencies have haunted him. So I wanted to touch on Tyler McGill because, one, he's pitching game 2 tomorrow. And this is his real last opportunity to prove that he is an MLB pitcher. I mean, his brother has turned into we tried so many experiments with Tyler McGill. We tried using him out of the bullpen as a spot starter, and it just hasn't worked. So it either has to work now or he's gone. He's gone. All right, but let's talk about some of the other starters because I didn't get to do any podcasts before opening day, which I really wanted to. I just been so freaking busy. I had to drive to New Jersey last night, drive back to New Jersey to ride and Nanuet, like all over. I think I've spent maybe like 16 hours in my car this week. I'm done driving this week. I'm driving to work and home. That's it. I am done driving this week. But Game 3, we're playing this Saturday against the Astros again in this 3-game series, and we're going to have Griffin Cannon top off this series against the Astros on Saturday. And he had a great spring training. He pitched to a 1.88 ERA. He actually did pitch against Houston in spring training. He only let up 2 hits across 1.2 innings of work. Didn't allow a run, only allowed 2 hits. Then he followed that up with 3.2 innings of work against St. Louis. Only let up 1 hit, no runs. Pitched 4.2 innings against Tampa Bay. Only allowed 1 earned run, 3 hits allowed, 5 hits against Miami. In his 4th spring training start, only allowed 2 earned runs. Griffin Cannon, he's not going to be an elite pitcher. He's not going to be an all-star level pitcher. But can he reshape his career? I think he can. I think he can be a guy with a low 4 ERA, a high 3 ERA. And like I said with Tyler McGill, that wouldn't be bad for him. Him as a 5, probably as a 6 when Manaea comes back. That's the key for him to stay in this rotation. Because like I said, this Mets offense is going to score 5-6 runs more than they don't this year. I have full confidence in them to do that. Just the question is, what Griffin Cannon are we going to get? Are we going to get the Griffin Cannon that led the American League in earned runs allowed last year? Or are we going to get a decent Griffin Cannon? Because I don't expect him to be great. I don't expect him to be good. I expect him to be decent. And if he can be a decent 5 starter, because that's what he is. He's a 5 or a 6 starter. That'll be a plus for the Mets. A lot of teams don't have a 5-6 starter that's going out there and pitching to a sub-4, a sub-4.2 ERA even. So if we can get that out of Griffin Cannon, that'd be huge. That'd be huge. And then hopefully Brandon Sproat dominates in AAA and he takes his spot. And Griffin Cannon can kick rocks either in the bullpen or get DFA'd. I don't know. But Cannon, I'm hoping, can show us that this spring training wasn't a fluke. I think a successful game for him tomorrow was just keep us in a position to win the game. Keep us in the position to win the game. Because Clay Holmes, as as he didn't really have a bad outing, but as much as a not good outing that he didn't have today, or that I should say did have today, Clay Holmes kept us in a position to win this game. He handed the ball off to the bullpen with only 3 runs allowed. The bullpen did a great job today. Brazoban, Danny Young, like they pitched great out of the bullpen today. Got to give Mets bullpen a lot of credit today, which I think I'm going to touch on the bullpen. I think the bullpen's going to be pretty good. If Griffin Canning can do that tomorrow and do that not every game, but let's say 4 out of 5 games, that's exactly what you want. That's exactly what you want. All right, their 4th starter this year is going to be David Peterson. And David Peterson, I'm going to make a bold prediction right now. I think he's going to turn into an ace. I think, he's a former first-round draft pick. You look at his career numbers, he's had some good seasons. In 2020, he came out of the gates, firing. We were talking about David Peterson as a future, top-level pitcher in this rotation going down the line. And we didn't really see it. In 2020, he pitched to a 3.44 ERA. 21, he followed that up with a terrible performance, pitching to a 5.54 ERA. And then 2022 bounces back, sometimes out of the bullpen, sometimes making spot starts here and there, pitched to a 3.83 ERA. And then in 2023, he was pitching with that hip injury all year, pitches to a 5.03 ERA. Goes down in 2023, has a hip surgery, comes back in 2024, and he looked like the guy that the Mets drafted in the first round a few years ago, pitches to a 2.90 ERA, and goes into the postseason, and he was mowing down the Phillies, he was mowing down the Dodgers, and the Brewers, 3 of the best teams in MLB. Like, he was mowing down those teams. So David Peterson definitely has all the tools to be a top-level starter. He's a great left-hander. He used his sinker a lot last year. His changeup is phenomenal. Griffin Cannon, by the way, also has a phenomenal changeup. But David Peterson, phenomenal changeup, phenomenal sinker, great 12-6 curve, great, a decent slider. I wouldn't say a put-away slider every time, but, he lets the defense play. That's what he did last year. He kind of changed his way. He wasn't a power pitcher by any stretch in his first few years, but he was a strikeout pitcher. Wasn't a power pitcher, but he was a strikeout pitcher. Last year, not really a strikeout pitcher, but he was a ground ball pitcher. And that's what I like with this Mets pitching staff overall. The Mets pitching coach, Jeremy Hefner, the entire staff, I think what they do so well and why the Mets have gotten such, weird names to pitch well over these past few years is because they get the best out of each guy. They find the best version of these starting pitchers and they tell them go out there and perform basically. And they perform at a high level. And David Peterson was a perfect example of that, turning his career around, finally living up to that first round draft pick expectations. And if he does that again, which I think he will, because, David Peterson, I know it's just spring training, but you look at his spring training numbers, he pitched to a 0.57 ERA in spring training. He had 4 spring training starts against Miami. He had his first start, 3 innings, only 1 hit allowed, no runs. Then he pitched against Miami again, 4 innings, 1 hit allowed, no runs. 3.2 innings against Boston, allowed 1 earned run, only let up 3 hits. And then against Houston, which is what I'm hoping we get out of him. Well, he won't be facing Houston. I kind of wish he was, because against Houston, in his 4th and final spring training start, he pitched 5 innings, only allowed 2 hits, no runs over those 5 innings of work. So I kind of wish David Peterson was able to pitch tomorrow or Saturday so he can at least guarantee us, a good starting outing, because there's no guarantee that Griffin Cannon or Tyler McGill are going to pitch well. There's no guarantee whatsoever. But David Peterson, I feel like there was a little guarantee if he did face the Houston Astros that he is going to come out of the gates and have a good start. But we're going to see Peterson pitch in that 4th game for the Mets. And I expect him to do well, because he's going to be facing a terrible Miami Marlins team. So he has a chance to kind of gain his confidence early. And that's why I kind of like Kodai Senga starting game 5. Uh, who, like I said, he's going to be pitching against Miami as well. So Senga, I think, like I said, Peterson, I expect him to turn into the ace. But Kodai Senga, a lot of people are calling David Peterson the wild card in this rotation. I think he's going to be the ace, which is crazy to say. But Kodai Senga, he's the wild card because I think Kodai Senga has the ability to be one of the best pitchers in the league. He has elite stuff, and he's a competitor. Like, he's willing to go out there and do whatever it takes to win his team the game. We saw that in the postseason where he was coming off just pitching 5.1 innings, had an arm injury, comes back, dominates a great Atlanta Braves team that did make the playoffs, won 89 games, finished ahead of us actually. Dominates the Atlanta Braves team, picking up right where he left off from 2023, where he pitched to a 2.98 ERA, made the NL All-Star squad, struck out over 200 batters, went 12-7. Like, Senga looked, well, not looked, he was the ace of the staff in 2023. In a year we expected Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander to be the ace. Kodai Senga was kind of an afterthought. So, and then, like I said, he's an ultimate competitor, willing to go out there and do whatever it takes to win the Mets a game, comes back in the playoffs against the Philadelphia Phillies, has one bad pitch to Kyle Schwarber, but he shut down Bryce Harper. He shut down Trey Turner. He shut down Nick Castellanos in 2 innings. And then against the LA Dodgers, he folded. He folded against the LA Dodgers. And I feel like since then, people have just forgotten how good Kodai Senga really is. He's got an elite ghost forkball. His fastball doesn't really move, but he can get it up there. He can get it up to 98 miles per hour. So if he sits between, I would say, 96, 98, that's going to be huge for him early on. And then also starting the year against Miami, I think that's an opportunity for him to go out there and put up a really good performance and remember who he is. Because going into 2023, we wanted him and we expected him. I mean, going into 2024, we wanted him and expected him to be the ace. So against Miami in game 5, Kodai Senga has an opportunity to come out of the gates firing with a really good start against a really bad team and just dominate them, build up his confidence, and then from there, take that ace position. Ultimately, like I said, I think David Peterson's going to be the breakout guy of this entire team and become the ace of the staff because I really like his stuff. But overall, this Mets pitching staff isn't terrible. I think it's actually going to be good, especially when Sean Manaea returns. So if all goes well, Sean Manaea will be back at least by mid-May or early May, maybe even late April. So we'll have Sean Manaea, who was undoubtedly the ace of the staff last year. He figures out his arm angle, pitches like Chris Sale, and he dominates. One of the best second-half pitchers in all of baseball. He was a top 20 pitcher in baseball last year. So we'll have Manaea. Hopefully Senga's pitching well. Hopefully Peterson's pitching well. And then probably Griffin Cannon is still going to be in the rotation. Him or Tyler McGill probably going to be fighting for that last spot once Manaea returns. So, with those 5, Manaea, Holmes, Senga, Peterson, either Cannon or Tyler McGill, probably both until Brandon Sproat comes up. But with that 6, I would say 5.5, depending on McGill or Cannon. I think the Mets are going to have a really good rotation. Because Brandon Sproat, he's a beast. I expect once he comes up to not pitch like Christian Scott did, because Christian Scott had some blunders last year. I think Brandon Sproat's better than Christian Scott. I mean, the Mets drafted that guy twice. They literally drafted Brandon Sproat. He said, I'm going to go back to college. And they loved him so much that they drafted him again once he re-entered the draft. So that's how much they love Brandon Sproat. That's how highly, that just shows you how much they think about him. So I really think Brandon Sproat's going to be a top-level pitcher once he gets settled in. He's got to do it in AAA first, though. And then once we have that rotation of, let's just go in order, probably Manaea at the 1, I'd say, once he's back. Probably Peterson as the 2, Senga as the 3, Holmes as the 4, Sproat as the 5, throwing McGill or Cannon at 6. Mets have a really good rotation. I think they have the ability to have at least 5 guys in that rotation pitch to sub 3.7 ERAs. And that would be huge. If you have 5 guys in a rotation that can pitch to a sub 3.7 ERA, and let's say two of them pitch to a sub 3, or just one of them pitch to a sub 3. That's a really good rotation. That's actually one of the better rotations in baseball. Granted, they don't have that bona fide ace. But like I said, I think David Peterson or Kodai Senga could become that bona fide ace. And we're going to have a really freaking good rotation, I would say, by June, probably by mid-May. So I'm pumped to see what this rotation can do. Let's talk about the bullpen, then we'll hop into the Yankees opening day win, led by Austin Wells hitting that leadoff home run. First catcher to ever lead off for the Yankees hitting that home run. Pretty cool to see Austin Wells hit that. I think Austin Wells is going to have a really big year. But before we get into that, let's talk about the Mets bullpen, who looked dominant today. Multiple innings out of Bras Bowen. He looked good. He's got great stuff. Saying the stuff word a lot, but he does have great stuff. And then Danny Young coming in there. But I want to talk about Brazoban first because he came in first. Pitches 2.1 innings, limits the damage with the walks. Only one walk. That was his main problem last year when he came to the Mets. Last year, in 19 games with the Mets, he walked 14 batters. So that's not a recipe for success at all. 21 innings pitched, 14 walks. Not good. Not good. Pitches 2.1 innings, strikes out 2, doesn't allow a run, only allows 1 hit. And, you look at this guy, he came to the Mets. When he came to the Mets and just last year with the Miami Marlins, he pitched to a 2.94 ERA in 20 games. I'm not saying we need him to, it would be pretty cool if he pitches to a sub 3 ERA. But in 2022, he pitched to a 3.09 ERA. Even if we get that, Brazoban, that's good. And he showed you he can pitch multiple innings this year in the first game. And then Danny Young comes in and, he didn't look electric, but he pitched well. He didn't allow a run. And then we still have AJ Minter. I think Edwin Diaz can get back to being one of the best closers in baseball because we can't forget that he missed the entire 2023 year. So to expect him to just jump right back to his 2022 self in 2024 after missing the entire 2023 season, it was just unfair. But having another year under his belt, I think Edwin Diaz can get back to what he kind of almost, not completely what he was in 2022 because he only let up 9 earned runs. To expect him to only let up 9 earned runs or less this year would also be a little unfair. But I think he can pitch to a sub 2.25 ERA and have, let's say, 40 plus saves. I think he can do that. So with Diaz, with Minter, Max Kranick cracking the ball club, and I'm so pumped that Max Kranick made this roster. He hasn't pitched in the majors in quite a while. But, when you talk about stuff, I've been talking about stuff a lot this podcast. Max Kranick has the stuff. He's got high velo on that fastball, multiple pitches, a great changeup. And you look at his spring training numbers, he pitched to a 1.46 ERA, multiple outings with multiple innings pitched, over 1 innings, I should say. 1.1 innings against 1.1 innings of work against Miami. Didn't allow a single run, struck out 3 batters, struck out 2 batters in 1.2 innings of work against Washington. Against Houston, struck out 2 batters in 1 inning. And then against Washington again, 1.1 innings, struck out 2 guys, 2 strikeouts against Washington again. Faced Washington a lot, 3 times in spring training. So that might have added to his spring training, his terrific spring training performance. But then he did it against the Yankees lineup on March 24th. He pitched 1 inning, struck out, and didn't allow a single hit. So, he pitched against Houston, had success. Pitched against pitched against the Yankees, had success. So that's 2 playoff teams. That's, he faced a Yankees lineup that had Judge, that had Jazz, that had Bellinger, that had Paul Goldschmidt. And I get it's only spring training, but they still featured those guys in the lineup. So I think Kranick could be that wild card out of the bullpen if he can be, a long reliever for us, or even just be a stopgap while Daniel Nunez is down in the minors trying to get fully healthy. Because Daniel Nunez, I think he's going to come back and be a beast. Because, his numbers last year before he got hurt, he was the guy out of the pen. I think Nunez has the ability to be an animal. I really do. I think he could be a high-level reliever. I think he could be, part of the back end of the rotation. Maybe kick Reed Garrett or Ryan Stanek out of that. Even if they're pitching well, I'd rather see Daniel Nunez be featured in that back end of the rotation because he has a lights out fastball, a lights out slider. Like, he's only 28 years old. Last year he pitched to a 2.31 ERA, had a .91 whip. Like, he was lights out last year in 25 games, 35 innings overall, so we can go multiple innings. 35 innings, only 24 hits allowed, only let up the home run ball 3 times, had 48 strikeouts in those 35 innings, which gave him a 12.3 K per 9, which is insane. It's insane. And then, like I said, the whip, the .9, the .914 whip is just insane. That's insane. So, and like I said, his ERA was great too, a 2.31 ERA. And then you look at his AAA numbers, like, is in the minor leagues. In AAA last year, pitched 14 games, pitched to a 1.29 ERA, 14 innings of work, 21 strikeouts. In 2023, in 2023, in the Eastern League of the AA, he pitched to a 2.65 ERA. And then let's take a look at his 2022 numbers. 2022 pitched to a 3 ERA across 2 different leagues. Just a flat 3 ERA, 33 innings with 49 strikeouts. He's a strikeout guy. He's a power pitcher. He's got a wicked slider. He kind of does remind me a lot of Edwin Diaz. He's got that wicked slider and a wicked fastball, just like Edwin Diaz. So that's kind of what you want out of a back-end bullpen guy, and I think he has the ability to be a great back-end bullpen guy. So I think this bullpen can be above average. I think it can be great. I think the lineup can be elite, and I think the starting pitching can be good. So when you plug all those 3 pieces together, I think the Mets are going to be a playoff team. So I know I wasn't able to put my final prediction out for the Mets before opening day, but I'm going to do it right now. I think, we're going to have to add a loss because we are 0-1, so we're going to add a loss. But I think the Mets finish with a record, I would say the same record as last year. I would say 89 wins and 73 losses, giving them the 2nd or 3rd wild card spot. And the reason being is the starting pitching. I think, like I said, the starting pitching can be good. But I think there are going to be days where the starting pitching sucks. Like, that's just the way it is. And I think there's going to be days like today when the starting pitching puts them in a position to win the game, and the Mets only score 1 run. So I think we're going to have a little bit of mix of both. I think we're going to finish with 89 wins. I'd love for them to go over, but I just don't want to commit too heavily. But I still think they can do damage in the playoffs because of their lineup and because of the potential of this starting rotation. Like, if we do have a lights-out Clay Holmes and a David Peterson and a Sean Manaea and a Kodai Senga, who all 4 of those guys I just mentioned, their ceiling is very high. If all 4 of them live up to the hype, they're going to blow past 89 wins. But I'm just going to be modest and fair and say 2 out of the 4 of those guys will reach their ceiling this year and be ace-level pitchers. And I'll say 2 of them are just middle of the pack. Middle of the pack. I'd love for all 4 of them to do that. Don't get me wrong. All right, Yankees, let me get the predictions out of the way. I think the Yankees are going to win the AL East. Going into this year, I feel like a lot of the talk was the Yankees don't have the same lineup that they did last year. And don't get me wrong, they don't. They don't have Juan Soto. They don't have Gleyber Torres, who is actually better than people gave him credit for last year. You replace Gleyber Torres with basically Oswaldo Cabrera at third base. People could say it's Jazz, but Jazz was on that second half team when you had Jazz and Gleyber. So even though, Jazz is replacing him at second base in the lineup, it's Oswaldo Cabrera replacing him. And Oswaldo Cabrera went 1 for 3 today. So, not too shabby, but I don't think Oswaldo Cabrera has high of an upside as an Austin Wells or an Anthony Volpe or Jason Dominguez. But, did his job today. 1 for 3. That's what you want him to do. That's Hall of Fame batting average numbers right there, hitting .333, but it's just 1 game. So I'm not going to just say Oswaldo Cabrera is going to go on a tear. But the Yankees lineup definitely did take a hit. But what I looked at is the right field numbers last year with Juan Soto and the first base numbers from Anthony Rizzo, Ben Wright. Like, they had a lot of first basemen last year. but their entire first base production was terrible. So between Soto and the first base production, they finished with a 7, and I think it was between a 700 and a 720 OPS, a batting average in the 260s. Like, they got terrible production. It was like a 500 OPS-ish from that first baseman spot last year. They replaced it with Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt had a 799 OPS after the All-Star break last year. That's a huge upgrade, a massive upgrade. And they obviously replaced Juan Soto with Cody Bellinger. And Cody Bellinger by no means is Juan Soto. But when you combine Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt, and you put them up against Juan Soto and the Yankees first baseman last year, that combination of Bellinger and Goldschmidt exceeds Soto and the first baseman from last year by a light year. By a light year. You cannot replace Juan Soto, but you can replace Anthony Rizzo. You can replace Anthony Rizzo. So that's where I think the Yankees lineup is not better, but it's not too far behind. It's not too far behind by any stretch. And then Jazz Chisholm Jr. is a guy who I think is going to have a breakout year. We heard this week about Miguel Rojas, how he treated Jazz Chisholm Jr. when he was with the Miami Marlins. Jazz Chisholm buys a bunch of chains, buys 20 cleats, and he's dumping milk in his cleats. Miguel Rojas is dumping milk in Jazz Chisholm's cleats, cutting up his cleats with scissors. And keep in mind, Jazz is in his young 20s at this point. He's in his young 20s at this point. I think this was what, 4 years ago? So he's like 23. Like, I'm 24. If I made the MLB and I had that contract of just $780,000 a year, you'd be out of your damn mind if you think I'm not buying every cleat that I can buy, every batting glove, every chain. Like, why do you think they say Jazz has aura? Because he looks cool when he plays the game. So, oh my God, he got cleats and chains. Big whoop, Miguel Rojas. And Jazz really didn't live up to his full potential with the Miami Marlins. And I hate saying the reason why is because of the clubhouse. But after hearing that story, I think it's part that definitely had a factor. Because he only hit 161 his rookie year. He had 248 and 21, 254 and 22, 250 and 23. And then even in 2024, with the Marlins, he only hit 249. He only had one season with the Marlins where he had an OPS over 800. And that was in 2022, where he made the NL All-Star team. He had an 860 OPS. He had 14 home runs, 45 RBIs, only hit 254. But he slugged 535. A lot of extra base hits out of him that year. But that Miami Marlins lineup was outright terrible. For the 5 years that he was with the Marlins, he was the best hitter in that lineup. No doubt about it. At least for the last 4 years, I would say since 2021, you can make a case that Jazz Chisholm Jr. was undoubtedly the best hitter in that lineup. Last year, he was the best hitter in that lineup. So it's no shock to me that when Jazz came over to the Yankees in a lineup with Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Gleyber Torres, in that lineup, he goes out there, he puts up a 273 batting average, the best stretch of his career. 273 batting average, an 825 OPS, at a 325 on base percentage, hit 11 home runs in just 46 games. He also stole a ton of bases. He stole 18 bases. He had 40 stolen bases total last year between the Marlins and the Yankees. I think Jazz can probably hit 20 home runs and steal 35, 40 bases this year. And if he does that, that's an elite year. That's a breakout year. I think Jazz can be an all-star level player. Like, we're talking about Cody Bellinger. We're talking about Paul Goldschmidt because they're the shiny new toys. Like, I feel like a lot of people forgot that Jazz Chisholm Jr. exists. And he was one of the most high-rated prospects when he came into the league. He's only 27 years old. Like, Jazz still hasn't really... Like, this is him entering his prime. 27 to 33 is an MLB player's prime. He is entering his prime. So I think Jazz is going to go off this year. Did he necessarily win the Yankees the game this year? No, but he's going to win the Yankees some games this year. I think he's going to be the second best hitter in this lineup. And it's because he's not in that terrible lineup that they had last year. I know he struck out twice today. He went over 3. So far, my Jazz Chisholm Jr. take isn't going too well. But, he has the potential to do it. He did it last year right when he came to the Yankees. He can abuse that short porch. He really can. I mean, hits lefty. He can poke it right over the short porch. We saw Anthony Volpe, almost called him Anthony Wells. Anthony Volpe and Austin Wells, they took advantage of that short porch today. And I know Anthony Volpe's home run literally cleared the wall by maybe a foot. But isn't it nice to see Anthony Volpe show some pop the other way? Like, isn't that nice? I think that's pretty nice. He's a guy. Now we're talking about Volpe. Let's talk about Volpe. Volpe needs a big year. Nobody needed to hit a home run in their first at bat, I think, on either of these teams, Mets or Yankees, more than Anthony Volpe. Because Anthony Volpe has sucked so far offensively. And you can be the best defensive shortstop. Yeah, he's a Gold Glove defender at shortstop. He is one of the best defenders in the league at his position, at probably the most important position. But his offensive numbers have been terrible. I mean, you look in 2023, he had a 209 batting average, a 283 on base percentage. In 2024, he had 243 with a 293 on base percentage. Those are not good numbers by any stretch. I don't care how good you play short. I don't care how great you play defensively at short. When you put up a 283 on base percentage and follow it up with a 293 on base percentage, you will not be in a starting lineup on a team with World Series aspirations for too long. So that's why Anthony Volpe going out there and his first at-bat of the 2025 season and hitting a home run was so important, not only for him, but for the Yankees, because they need to see Anthony Volpe become an MLB hitter. He's done it in the minors. He's hit over 300. He hit over 300 at the different levels in the minor leagues. He's had over an 800 OPS in the minors. He's had a season where he hit over 20 home runs in the minors. Hell, he hit 21 home runs in his rookie year. So we know he has pop. We know he's got a great glove, but can he be consistent? Can he get on base more than 30% of the time? Can he have a batting average higher than 250? Because he plays such a great defense. Anthony Volpe plays such a phenomenal shortstop that he doesn't need to hit 300 and have an 800 plus OPS. All Volpe needs to do is hit 250 plus with, let's say, a 330 on base percentage, and he would actually be one of the most valuable shortstops in MLB. But the problem with Anthony Volpe through his first 2 years, like I said, is he had a 293 on base percentage in 24 and the 283 on base percentage in 23. So if Volpe can just get on base, like I said, 33% of the time with the way he plays defense, he will be one of the most valuable shortstops in baseball. But this is it for him. This is it. It is the last opportunity, I think, for Volpe to go out there and prove that he can be this Yankee shortstop going forward. Because they got guys in the minor leagues, specifically George Lombard. I know he's only 19, but he's waiting. He's waiting. I wouldn't be surprised if Volpe struggles a lot this year, and by the end of the year, they say, screw it. Screw it. We're going to let Lombard start in AAA in 2026. If he rakes, he's coming up, and he's taking his job. So this is a big year for Volpe. This is a big year for Volpe. Volpe finished today going 1 for 4 with that solo shot the other way, which is nice. Only struck out once. So right now, I mean, he's got 1,000 slugging percentage, which is nice, but only a 250 on base percentage. Only got on base 25% of the time today. But like I said, only one game, so you don't want to panic. And he did go the other way with an Oppo Taco. So that was pretty cool. Let's talk about Anthony Wells. Anthony Wells going out there having a great performance. He got on base twice. Really once, but technically twice. He walked around every single base in the first at-bat of the year for the Yankees. I thought Anthony Wells was going to I literally texted my friends. I said, Anthony Wells is going to work a walk and Aaron Judge is going to hit a home run. Because Aaron Judge had a terrible spring training. He only hit 1 home run in spring training. So I thought Aaron Judge was just due to hit a monster shot. Like I thought it was coming. But Anthony Wells, he was the guy to get the Yankees' first home run. And he did it in the first at-bat of the year. For the first time ever, a catcher has led off for the New York Yankees. And that catcher, well, he could be one of the best catchers in baseball. I'll say it. I'll say it right now. I am buying in to the Austin Wells hype. And it might be, a little unfair because he just hit that leadoff home run today. But how could you not buy into the Austin Wells hype? Like, I'm looking at, let's take a look at Austin Wells' numbers from last year. They weren't great. But one for a catcher. Like, how many great hidden catchers are there yesterday? I was just having a talk with my friend yesterday. How many great hidden catchers are there in today's MLB? You can count it on your hands. No more than 10, guaranteed. Guaranteed no more than 10. So maybe 33% of the league has good hidden catchers. But last year, Austin Wells finished third in Rookie of the Year voting, had an OPS plus of 103, 718 OPS, only hit 229, but he drove in 55 runs, hit 13 home runs in 115 games. And he had a 2.5 WAR. He plays a great defense as well, so that also helped out his WAR. But then, like I said, it was his rookie year, so you can't expect him to hit 300. I don't expect him to hit 300, but you can't expect him to have an on-base percentage over like 350, 360 in his rookie year. That's just unfair. But I'd take a look at his minor league numbers, because I always like looking at these prospects' minor league numbers across different levels, because if they can hit at every single level, AAA, single A, double A, they hit at 3 different levels, that's usually a good sign. By the time they get to the league, they can at least be a serviceable player. But Austin Wells taught us last year that he has a lot of potential. So let's take a look at his numbers in 2023 in AAA. He had an 802 OPS with a 349 on-base percentage. Drove in 20 runs, hit 5 home runs in just 33 AAA games. You go to his AA numbers that year, where he played 58 games. He had a 770 OPS, a 327 on-base percentage, drove in 50 runs in those 58 games, and popped off 11 home runs. And he started the year in single A, so he worked his way all the way up to AAA that year. Finished across 3 different levels, single A, double A, AAA. All those numbers warped into 1 year. Had a 775 OPS, 333 on base percentage, hit 17 home runs, drove in 72 runs in 96 games. And then you look at his 2022 numbers. Played at high A, low A, and double A. In 92 games, he hit 277 with a 385 on base percentage, a 512 slug percentage, totaling for an 897 OPS. He hit 20 home runs, drove in 65 runs in 92 games. Austin Wells has the potential. I think this might be a crazy take. I think Austin Wells has the potential to be the best hidden catcher in baseball. I really do think he does. I think his over-under going into this year for home runs was 17.5, which is crazy because I would hammer that if I'm a Yankees fan. He is going to have 18 home runs at the very least. I think Austin Wells, and also he's hitting in front of Aaron Judge. I know Juan Soto didn't necessarily, I always say, I don't think Juan Soto needs the protection of Aaron Judge. It helped, but he doesn't need it. And he does still have it. He's in between Pete Alonso, the guy who's had the second most home runs since 2019 in MLB. And hitting in front of him is Francisco Lindor, who finished second in NL MVP voting last year. So he's sandwiched in between 2 All-Stars. So Juan Soto still has protection. But Soto also did benefit from hitting in front of Aaron Judge last year, the best hitter in baseball. And now it's Austin Wells hitting in front of that best hitter in baseball. And like I said, you look at his minor league numbers, and they're eye-popping. Across 3 minor league seasons, he's had an 846 OPS, a 260 batting average, 53 home runs in 291 games. I think he can be a guy that hits 18 to, let's go into the 7 range, 18 to 25 home runs. Since he's hitting leadoff, probably 65 plus RBIs. I mean, he had over 50 last year. So I think Austin Wells can be the best hidden catcher in baseball. I really do. I think he can become a top 3 catcher overall, at the very least. That's how much I think Austin Wells is going to be great in this league. Out of all those young guys, out of Austin Wells, out of Jason Dominguez, out of Anthony Volpe, out of Ben Rice, out of Oswaldo Cabrera, I think Austin Wells has the best opportunity, has the best chance to be the best young guy. The best young guy. And out of those five guys, Ben Rice, Anthony Volpe, Jason Dominguez, Austin Wells, and Oswaldo Cabrera. Out of those five guys, the Yankees just need two of them to become impact bats. And they will have a much better lineup than we expected going into this year. And I think Austin Wells can do it. I think either Jason Dominguez or Ben Rice will do it. And like I said, Anthony Volpe needs to do it. So if all four out of those five guys, let's just forget about Oswaldo Cabrera, four out of those five guys go off, the Yankees have the best lineup in the American League again. That's crazy to say. It's crazy to say, but it's true. It's true. Ben Rice raked in spring training. He scored today, went 1 for 2 today, worked a walk, so he got on base twice, only struck out once. But in spring training, he lit it up. He hit 242, had an OPS well over 800, slug percentage of 516, on base percentage of 319, multiple home runs. He had 4 home runs in spring training. Ben Rice went off. 5 home runs in spring training, actually. Ben Rice went off. Last year, in 50 games, he hit 7 home runs, had 23 RBIs, hit 171. But I just looked at Austin Wells' numbers in the minor leagues. It'd be unfair of me not to touch on Ben Rice's elite numbers in the minor leagues. Because Ben Rice, out of all these 5 guys, he had the best numbers in the minors. He had the best numbers. In his minor league career, across 4 seasons, Ben Rice had a 935 OPS, had a 399 on-base percentage. He hit 282. You look at his 2024 numbers in AAA in 30 games. He drove in 33 runs in those 30 games. He hit 12 home runs in those 30 games, hit 294 at a 428 on-base percentage for an OPS of 1.088. Ben Rice can rake. He showed it in spring training. He showed it at every single minor league level. I think Ben Rice could be the wild card in this Yankees lineup. And Stanton, we got some good news. He'll be back at some point this season. The PRP shots that he got in his elbows, it went well. He's swinging a bat, and I know it's not too crazy because I could go swing a bat, and it won't mean crap. But when it's Giancarlo Stanton swinging the bat, it means a lot, especially when a lot of people were saying he might miss the entire year. Well, now he's not. But if Ben Rice rakes, this would be an awesome problem for Aaron Boone to have. When Stanton comes back, Ben Rice is raking, and you got to figure out, oh, man, where do I put Ben Rice? We got Stanton back. Ben Rice is raking. That would be an awesome problem to have, and I think that might happen. I legitimately think that might happen because that's how good Ben Rice can be. So that's huge. That's huge. Aaron Judge, there's not too much to talk about Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is going to hit over 50 homers, probably going to lead the league in RBIs, probably going to win his 3rd MVP. So, yeah, Aaron Judge, really not too much to talk about with him. Like, we all know who Aaron Judge is. We all know what he's going to do this year. He's going to hit over 300. He's going to have over 1,000 OPS. He's going to hit over 50 home runs. He's probably going to lead the American League in RBIs. And he's probably going to win his 3rd MVP award. It's going to happen. Even with Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt, Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson. Like, dude, Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge. He's a better hitter than Shohei Ohtani. Maybe might not steal as much bases, but there's no better hitter in MLB than Aaron Judge. All right, we talked about literally about every single player in this lineup today, except Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt. But we kind of did touch on them. I think the replacement of Bellinger and Goldschmidt will outdo, the Soto and first base production they got last year, which is huge. Jason Dominguez went 0 for 3 today, but Jason Dominguez is going to have a lot of time to fail. I was listening to Aaron Boone talking on the pregame show earlier today on The Fan, and he basically laid it out there. He said, listen, we don't have too many options with all these injuries. We're going to give Jason Dominguez and these young guys, a chance to fail. Like, they're not just going to – if Jason Dominguez starts off the first 3 weeks of the season with 27 strikeouts in 27 games, he ain't going anywhere. He ain't going anywhere. He can make 15 errors in 30 games. He ain't going anywhere. Now, in 60 games, if he makes 30 errors, maybe he does. But Jason Dominguez is going to have an opportunity to fail. So that's what I think is cool for Jason Dominguez, because Dominguez, he's the number one prospect in the Yankee system for a reason, because he is that good offensively. So I think Dominguez could be great. He's only 22. So I think Yankee fans need to take a deep breath and realize if he doesn't perform at a high level to start the season, have some patience. Have some patience. Because he's only 22 years old. If he gets sent back down in May or June because he's underperforming, it's not like it's the end of Jason Dominguez. It's not. So don't be too worried with Jason Dominguez. Don't think of it like that he needs to be a star. Would it be great? Would it be a plus? Yeah. But we don't just need to expect Jason Dominguez to be a star right away at 22 years old. It's a little unfair. Now, let's talk about the pitching. Losing Garrett Cole for the entire year due to Tommy John sucks so much. It is terrible. Losing Louis Heel probably at least for half the year after he won a Rookie of the Year award, after he went out in the first half of last year and looked like the best pitcher in baseball. Like, that's terrible. It sucks. But Max Fried still exists. I think Max Fried is going to win the American League Cy Young. He's my pick to win the American League Cy Young. I'll say it right there. So, one, he's the most reliable starter, in my opinion, in the AL East. Probably the most reliable starter in the American League. Because you look at Max Fried's numbers throughout his career. Max Fried has never really had a bad season. Never. Like, I'm looking at his numbers right now. He has never pitched 1 year in 2019. He pitched to an ERA over 4, and it was a 4.02. Came in the league in 2017, pitched with a 3.81 ERA, 2018, 2.94, 2019, 4.02, then 2020, 2.25, 2021, 3.04, 2.48 ERA in 22, 2.55 ERA in 2023, and a 3.25 ERA last year. Max Fried's an ace. Thank God they gave him that contract. Because losing Garrett Cole, at least now you still have an ace. But the Yankees might have another ace. They might actually have two aces in this rotation without Garrett Cole. And that is Carlos Rodon. In year 3, do the Yankees finally get what they expected Carlos Rodon to be when the Yankees gave him that $160 million contract? I think it might happen, because we can't forget it's not too far removed from 2021 and 2022, 2 consecutive years where he pitched to a sub-3 ERA. In 2021 with the White Sox, this is why he got his money. 2021, pitched to a 2.37 ERA with the Chicago White Sox. Had a 13-5 record. Followed that up in 2022 with the San Francisco Giants in 31 starts with a 14-8 record. 14-8 record with a 2.88 ERA. Obviously, during his first 2 years with the Yankees, he sucked. But he came out there today, and he showed you why he got paid $165 million. And he could be the second ace on this team without Garrett Cole. Mark my words, because he has that ability. He has the stuff to do it. And I think he can, and I think he will. And I know that's saying a lot, but it's really not, considering what he did in 21 and 22. He can be an ace-level starter. And if he is, this Yankees rotation is fine. The Yankees are fine. Because last year in the first half, they had a great starting pitching. In the second half, even great starting pitching. And Carlos Rodon was not a part of that great starting pitching last year. Now, if Carlos Rodon goes out there and shoves this year like he did today, where in game 1 of the season pitches 5.1 innings, only allows one bad pitch, let up the home run, 1 bad pitch, but 7 strikeouts, only 2 walks, and 4 hits allowed. Rodon could be an ace. And if he is, the entire complexion of this starting rotation changes, because then you got Max Fried and Rodon, 2 aces. Clark Schmidt, when he comes back in 3 weeks, he could be a valuable, serviceable starter. He would be a great number 3 to have. Marcus Stroman, you just keep your fingers crossed that you can get a good first half out of him. So by the time Louis Hill comes back and Marcus Stroman starts to suck like he usually does in the second half, you can just plug Louis Hill in for him. So then you got 4 good starters right there in Fried, Rodon, Schmidt, and Hill. And then hopefully Will Warren turns into something. Because like I said, I've been talking about Will Warren all offseason, all spring training. Will Warren doesn't need to be an ace. Just like Jason Dominguez doesn't need to be a star. Will Warren needs to be a number 5. If he pitches to a sub 4.3 ERA, that'll be fine for a number 5 starter. Because you can't have 5 starters that pitch like aces. Only the Dodgers can do that. Only the Dodgers can do that. One team. And really, the Dodgers, I mean, they won a World Series last year without a bona fide ace. We can't forget that. Last year, who was the ace of the Dodgers rotation come playoff time? Tell me. Can someone tell me? No, you can't. It wasn't Jack Flaherty. Wasn't Walker Buehler. Yamamoto, I get it. He got all that money, but he wasn't a bona fide ace. He pitched to a 3 ERA last year. None of those 3 guys were bona fide aces at the time last year. So you don't need an ace in today's MLB. What you need is 5, let's say 2 good starters, a decent starter at number 3, a decent starter at number 4, and a serviceable starter at your number 5. If you have that and you have a really good lineup, which the Yankees, like I said, I think they will have a very good lineup. They still have the best hitter in baseball in Aaron Judge. Austin Wells hitting in front of Judge. I think he's going to have a breakout year. Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt. That's a huge replacement for Juan Soto in the first base production they got last year. Ben Rice, if he can perform, if Jason Dominguez or Anthony Volpe, if one of those 3 guys perform, the Yankees have a good lineup, probably the best lineup in the American League. And with the starting rotation they have, with the bullpen they have, even though Devin Williams looked a little shaky in the 9th inning today, I think the Yankees can be the best team in the American League back-to-back years. I'll say that right now. Even without Garrett Cole and Louis Hill for half the year, and probably Giancarlo Stanton for half the year. Because in today's MLB, you win games. It sounds cliche, but you win games by scoring runs. You don't win games by not allowing a ton of runs. You win games by scoring a ton of runs. Look at the past few World Series winners. The LA Dodgers, elite lineup. Elite lineup. The Texas Rangers, elite lineup. Elite lineup. So you look at the Phillies and the Phillies, who the past few years have been, making deep postseason runs. What do they have? An elite lineup. The Atlanta Braves, an elite lineup. The New York Mets of 2022. The New York Yankees of 2022, elite lineup. The New York Yankees of 2024, elite lineup. In today's game, it's better to have an elite lineup than an elite starting rotation. It's plain and simple. So, my final Yankees prediction, they're going to win the AL East. They're going to win 92 games. Finish off with a record of 92-70. That's my prediction for the Yankees. Mets, 89 and 73. Yankees, 92 and 70. And I'll be the first to say it. I think this is the year that we get a Subway World Series for the first time since 2000. We were very close last year. We were so close. We were 2 Mets wins away from having a Subway World Series. Unfortunately, it didn't happen because the Dodgers decided to just be the Dodgers. I hate the Dodgers. Speaking of that, let's give a score update on the Dodgers game right now. They were 5-4 last time I checked. Oh, they won 5-4. Ooh, Scooble, man. What a 4 earned runs today. 6 hits across 5 innings of work. Blake Snell, 5 innings of work. 5 hits allowed. 2 earned runs allowed. Very unlike those 2 starters. Blake Snell, usually a beast. Same with Scooble. A lot of people had him win the Cy Young this year. All right. That'll be it for me today. Thank you for watching the New York Double Play. By the way, if you noticed, I changed the name of the James Nolan podcast to the New York Double Play, a James Nolan podcast, because I figured when I'm writing for Fansided, I'm only writing about the Mets and Yankees. I'm only writing about the Mets and Yankees. So why not just have a podcast where I just talk Mets and Yankees? One, I'm better as a baseball mind than a football mind. I'll say that straight up. I'm better as a baseball mind than a basketball mind. I'm still going to talk about them. I'm still going to make videos about them. When I'm doing full podcasts, we're only talking Mets and Yankees, baby. Because baseball is the sport. That's the sport. Screw football, screw basketball. They're still fun. They're still fun to watch. They're still fun to be interested in. But baseball's my MO, so I figured why not be baseball centric on most pods. Still here and there. We'll talk Jets. We'll talk Giants. We'll talk Knicks. Still release some videos on them. Check out the channel. But mainly Mets and Yankees. So thank you guys for watching. Whether you're watching on X, YouTube, or Facebook, I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope us Mets fans can get a nice win tomorrow. We deserve it. Hopefully Juan Soto goes off. Maybe let's go 3 for 4 with a home run, and we can go into this weekend and have some revenge on the Yankee fans because, like I said, Soto had a great game, but he's not the reason we lost because of one strikeout. And that one strikeout came at the worst time because if he struck out with the bases loaded in the third inning, nobody would have said crap. But he struck out. He struck out with a chance to tie the game, a chance to give us the lead, and he struck out on a slider way outside of the zone, very un-Juan Soto-like. And now I'm sure if you're a Mets fan, you are not going to have a fun day at work tomorrow if you work with Yankee fans. It's not going to be fun. If you can call out now. Say, hey, it's midnight. Text them at midnight. Text your boss at midnight. Hey, it's midnight. I wanted to text you as early as I can because I'm not feeling too well. I'll let you know how I feel tomorrow morning. And then text them tomorrow morning and say, hey, I don't feel well. I'm taking the night off. And then Juan Soto goes off tomorrow night, and then you're going to work on Monday, and you walking around like the freaking man. All right, that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Love you guys. Deuces.